Hey, welcome to Playing for Keeps, the show where we take a deep dive into dating, love, relationships, sex, and attachment theory. Your host, DJ, will be hosting Dating Chronicles, where she has guests come on the show and give a funny, crazy, or romantic dating story. Tune in if you need a laugh, hear something romantic, or maybe hear someone else's experience to help you grow in your relationship journey.
Hey everybody, it's your girl DJ with Playing for Keeps podcast, and today we have a special guest for Dating Chronicles. Her name is Lady B. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I appreciate you coming on the show.
No, not a problem. I love to support other entrepreneurs, other podcasters. We have to support each other nowadays.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on before we dig into Dating Chronicles.
Sure, love. I'm Lady B. I am the host of Unapologetically Living. It is a brand new podcast that just launched last month. You can watch it on YouTube, or you can also follow me and listen auditorial. It's basically for those of us that's tired of living conventional lifestyle, which is just a normal, basic lifestyle that's conducive for family and friends. But however, we may be bored with it, which means we want to take that leap of faith. Faith over fear is my actual subtitle, where you just take that faith and say, hey, I'm not going to live in fear anymore and scared and live this my family and friends life. But hey, I'm dying on the inside because I'm really bored with life.
Okay, that is awesome. And what else you got going on? I know you was telling me about a book and just how your week's been, girl.
Yes, I'm currently working on my book to launch. I'm going to share some things today with you all, and it's about the relation that I'm going to share tonight as well, about my first marriage that was stemmed in domestic violence. So I'm writing the book now. It should be out by next year at this time, where I dive into my first marriage, the mistakes I made, there's things I learned about myself, not just about him, but things I learned about myself as well. And then also I am a mobile notary public in the state of Texas. I'm also into real estate. I do the loan closings for all real estate transactions. When you buy a house, when you sell a house, when you refinance on your house. So I got a lot of things going on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you do have a lot of things going on. So I'm sure your week has been very, very, very busy. Okay. So,
but I like it like this. It makes time go by fast.
Makes time go by fast. I think too, I know for me, just keeping busy, it helps me get along with life too. Like, I don't like being stagnant. So I definitely agree with you there. So you are here for Dating Chronicles, where you give a funny, crazy, or romantic dating story. Tell us what you got for us today.
Well, I have a dating chronicle. I would say I actually married my ex-spouse. I was in my 20s. I'm 40 now. And it started off really well. We met online. I don't know how old your listeners may be, because I'm old. If you remember when online dating first started back in the day, it was a lot different than it is now. It was basically stemmed around chat rooms. Where you met the people via the chat rooms, and then you all would dip off and go and have sidebar conversations and exchange personal phone numbers or emails or IMs. But it wasn't as it is now, where you just sign on to the app and just scroll and look at pictures and actually you got a chance to interact with the person and see how they thought, how they think, And so we met in blackvoices.com. It was a stem of Black Planet, but it was like Black Voices was supposed to be like for the older, more sophisticated. I wasn't supposed to be in there because I wasn't older and I wasn't sophisticated. At that time, I was still a young college student. But I was like, hey, I didn't want to be with the Black Planet people, because they was still, they was cutting up for real then. And so I was like, let me go on over here to the more older, more sophisticated, the caviar and beer,
Got you.
And so I went on over there to the caviar folks, and I'm in the chat room and I'm just chatting and having a good time. I'm plus size. I've always been plus size my whole life. And so I was in a plus size room chatting up. When I said plus size, referring to weight, it was the BBW, plus size women. And so it was men in there as well. And we weren't talking about weight related topics. They were just talking about everything, you know. And it just so happened to be people that were plus size. But you would hop from room to room to room. Whatever the room topic, you know, was theme, you would just jump in the room and talk. And so that's how I met my ex-husband. I met him in the chat rooms, and he was in, and we were just talking back and forth. We were conversing with a group of people, having an argument over a social topic. And that's when he personally sent me a private message like, hey, I like the way you think. I like your personality, you know, via online talking, you know. And then that's how we hit it off, and we started dating. And that's the part where I share so much in my book coming up, is that the dating part. A lot of things I didn't pay attention to that I should have paid attention to, but I was so caught up in the whole whirlwind of the romance that I didn't catch it. Yeah.
That's usually what we get caught up in, especially when the guy sweeps you in and he wants to move fast. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't help but want to move fast with him when you want a relationship. So yeah.
And you know, when I was like 20, and he was 12 years older than me, so he was already in his mid 30s. And so for, you know, being 20 in college, that person's all the gifts is coming. They're sending you gifts in the mail. Mm-hmm. You know, the shopping sprees, the extravagant dinners, the getaways. You're just caught up, and you're not even paying attention to the red flags of their personality, because, like you say, they're moving fast, and you're like, hey, they just want a relationship, so that's why they're moving so fast. But it's actually an agenda that's with that, moving that fast. And so that's why I learned my lessons then. I would say I first started learning, I tell people, pay attention to their personality, to their mood swings. How are they when they're happy? How are they when they're sad, when they're stressed out, when they got money, when they don't got money? Those are things that I didn't pay attention to, with how the mood swings were changing based on the other things that he was going through in his life. I didn't notice that his personality was changing tremendously.
Let me ask you this. Was he inviting you into those other parts of his life in the beginning? For you
No.
Okay. Because that's so just a little bit of fairness to you, because I know a lot of men, they'll show you all of the good things, and then they don't invite you into those places. So let me ask you this before you really dig into the meat and the potatoes of your story. What advice or red flags would you ask a person, or tell a person to look out for, besides just really paying attention to the personality? When you think back, before you knew of the things that you're going to talk about when it comes to your husband, what would you say what else should a person look out for?
I would say they should definitely look out for more than just the personality, but they should look at things as if the person is trying the romancing part, like it's like overindulging.
Gotcha.
Like you can be nice, but when the person is like overindulging, like you're getting top name brand bags every 2 weeks.
In the beginning.
Overindulging. So It's like, what are they compensating for? But you may think, well, they're settled, they're established financially, so they can afford these things, but it's still, that's overindulging if they want to buy top name brand bags, like you're getting 2 or 3 a month. Then they want to take extravagant trips all of a sudden. It's like they're splurging on a lot of money at a time. At first, it's flattering being a woman, but then those are things, now that I'm older, I look at that because, number one, that's their spending habits. That lets you know spending habits. And then number 2, what are you overcompensating for that you're getting me caught up in these gifts that I'm not paying attention to anything else, because I'm focusing on, every time I turn around, I'm getting this extravagant gift. or we're going on a getaway. So I'm always feeling like, it's something coming. It's always something coming. Another thing I would tell women is they don't really tell you anything negative about themselves, any of their flaws. They come off perfect. You don't know that they won't say, well, I struggle with this or I struggle with that. They come off as a perfect person, and everybody that came in their life was just wrong before you, and you're just the best thing that ever happened to them. But everybody else before you was just the worst, and they were just this good person that just kept getting taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, that is definitely a red flag. And I think a lot of people do kind of, like, I know at least I always used to not toot my nose, but kind of look crazy when a guy would always make the other person out to be the bad guy. Because in a way, it's like, it's two people. It can't always just be the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, when you meet them, the personality, like you mesh with the person real well. And then they tell you like, well, I was attracted to the person, we dated. And then all of a sudden the person just became the worst person ever in the whole wide world. It's like, well, what happened?
Right. And they never have an answer for that. Like, what happened? Yeah. And they don't never have an answer for that. Mm-hmm. That is something else to look out for. Like, I have a friend, I'm thinking about my friend, and she got with this guy, and he had a child with this other woman, and he was always blaming the woman for like why they weren't together. It was always something, and she ate that shit up like rice. You hear me? Like, she ate it up like rice. And then they started having issues in their relationship, and I always went back to that conversation where she was talking down on the other woman and was, giving him praises because he also was buying her gifts and was doing this and was doing that for her in the beginning, and she kind of got wrapped up in that. But when times got rough, kind of like what you said, you got to pay attention to spending habits and stuff like that. His attitude started changing. She was the problem, all of that. So that's very, very true. They're still trying to work it out now to this day, but it's no longer the other woman's fault anymore, like what she used to say to me. So. Yeah.
Now she see what the other lady saw. Because when she see what the other woman saw and you see that he's not Mr. Perfect anymore, that he has some issues, and you start to see like, oh, well, that's why they have issues. That's why they're not together no more, because he's not Mr. Perfect. Because when you a lot of my girlfriends that's single, they'll meet a guy and he's like everything they want him to be. And a lot of them say, well, I just can't believe he's single. Like, who would pass him up? Now I say, just wait. Just wait. You'll find out why he's single at 40, 45. You'll find out because you meet his representative first. That's who you want him to meet. And I tell they give you the interview answers. You know how you go on the job that you really want, and you give them the interview answers. Of course, I've never been late for a job. I'm always early every morning. I bring breakfast for all my managers and supervisors. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I've never lost my cool at work. I love all my coworkers, and I just think they're all the best. And you give them interview answers. That's the same way people do when they're dating. They give each other those interview answers, and that's not the real person. You know what I'm saying? You're not giving the realness of who you are. And I think a lot of YouTube couples, I noticed they get offended when the audience tells them like, I can tell y'all not authentic, you're not real, and they get offended. But it's true, because you watch how they mesh together, and you can tell the person's holding back. They're giving an interview answer. They're not being their truth. They like to say, well, what do you like about them? I just love everything.
Yeah, and it's not exactly the truth. I think too, though, sometimes when it's not the extreme, like say if the person isn't like trying to hide certain stuff, I think for everybody when they first go out and meet somebody new, they try to give their highest self. So I won't say they're not being real, quote unquote, but they try to give their highest self. But then, as time goes on, the vibrations get low and true colors start coming out. And I think then it's really like, okay, can I tolerate this person in this season, or can I tolerate certain attributes that they're now showing? Just to point out, because I know some people, it's really just, that representative is their higher self. They can be that, but they just show that in the beginning and then they get lazy. So, so with your ex-husband, he was doing all these extravagant things. That was all in the beginning. So you guys ended up getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all were dating at first. It was going really well, and then you guys get married. Is that when things go left? When things went left, or did it go left before then?
It started being signs of a lot of strange things started happening right when we were dating, right before we got married. But I was so young, I didn't recognize that they were really signs. They were red flags. I thought they were just he was had a bad day at work. He just was having a bad day. I started noticing his mood swings were very drastic. He would go from happy to sad immediately, and I just thought it was just a bad day. I saw when he started waking up in the middle of the night crying. I had never experienced that before. I mean, I was still young. I only dated a few people, but I still never had seen it or heard of anybody going through those type of things. So I just chopped it up. It was just him, you know. But those were things that I did notice before we got married. I started noticing small things with his emotions were off. And also the fact that he isolated me from my family and friends. He moved me to the suburbs, and we only had one car. And so all my family and my friends lived in the city area, so which was about 45, 50 minutes away. And when I wanted to go visit, he would get upset about why would I want to go spend time with my family or my friends. I was a grown woman with my own home, you know. And so I started to feel some kind of way then, but I'm like, it's just me, you know, like you're just tripping. Like he's good, you know.
And with him crying in the middle of the night and his mood swings, did it make you feel in a way like, oh, I just want to be there for him? I want to be there for him. And in a way, with him isolating your family, of course, you had no choice in a way but to be closer to him with all of that too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. When he was going through the emotion, I felt like I just need to be a better woman. I needed to step up. I wasn't looking at it was something wrong with him. I was looking at, well, it's something I'm doing, because he's clearly emotional. You know, he's saying that he doesn't feel loved. And then in the morning, he would wake up and wouldn't even remember the conversation. He'd be totally a different person on a whole high wind. It would happen at certain times of the night. And so that's why I say, but at that time, I was just thinking, I just need to be the better person. And then he'll be better.
Oh, okay. So what did you find out after you got married that he hid from you?
That he suffered from 2 mental illnesses. He suffered from bipolar, and he also suffered from schizophrenia.
So he knew this already and did not tell you?
Yes, he had multiple previous full psych admissions in psych hospitals.
How did this come out?
He was at work. He was a mechanic for a bus company, a city bus. And he was working, and management had came to him and accused him of damaging one of the work utility vehicles, and they just told him that, you know, we probably got to write you up. It was a little scuffle on the bumper or whatever. He went ballistic, like he flipped.
Oh, wow.
The job comes with a union. You know, most of the time I've worked union jobs before. You just take the write-up, go to the union, let them fight it, you know. You just don't sign it. But I mean, he went irate as to the point as if they were gonna fire him, they were gonna torture him and tell him he wasn't gonna get paid. Like, it was just yes. And he told them, like, I just got married, I can't lose my job. But they wasn't firing him. They was just writing him up. But he went into this whole like frenzy. Of course, he was a black male. It's all white men, big corporate, but they were like, oh no. He had been there for years, but they was just like, oh no, we can't have this. Like, you're having a breakdown. And so now we don't feel safe with just sending you back out there on the floor. So they called the hospital, the police. They saw that he wouldn't calm down. And so they went and they took him to the nearest suburban neighborhood type hospital.
Wow.
And so I had just got to work. We had worked the same shift. And so I had just got to work. We had told you we had one car. So he had the car. And so at that time, I tell people God always surround me with angels. At the time, a young lady that was working with me, we would just know each other from just working. We only been working together like a few months, and I had just started shift that I'd like literally been there an hour, and I get this call. And she could see the look on my face that something was wrong. And so I just tell her, you know, you're at work. You don't want to tell people your personal business unless your husband is telling you he going to the hospital for acting a fool at work. And so you're like, what do you mean they taking you to the hospital?
Right.
You didn't cut yourself. You didn't like, there's no injury. So why are they taking you? I don't know. They're just taking me.
What?
And so I'm like, well, where are you? Well, they had me sitting in this room. I told her, and she's like, little did I know, her father was a big fire chief for that city, that area.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, I'm going to the boss and I'm gonna tell him I have to leave because I'm taking you to the hospital. I know how to get there. And she's like, if we get stopped by the police for me speeding, I can just, toss out my dad's name. We good.
Wow. Okay.
She tells the boss, I'm leaving. Because I'm taking her to the hospital with her to go see her husband. So no car here, and she has to get there. And he was like, okay, whatever. Thelma and Louise, goodbye. And so we went on. She knew exactly how to get there. I had never been to this hospital, never heard of it or nothing. Been living in the city my whole life, never heard of this hospital. And she knew how to get there right away. We went there. She went in with me, and they had him in the emergency room, and he was going to be on the psych eval. And that's how I found out was because she stayed in the lobby, and I went to go talk with the nurse. And the nurse was telling me, how he has to have a 72-hour mental health evaluation hold or whatever. And she was like, due to his previous admission. And she must have saw the look on my face when she said, due to his previous admissions. And then she said, you didn't know?
Oh my God.
Like, wait, what, lady? Previous admissions where?
Wow.
And then the bells were going off, and back in the day, that's when they still had everything was electronic. She left his file open, and she went to go answer. It was another patient's bell was going off, and that's when I saw all the previous admissions.
What?
Yeah, he had been suicidal years and years in advance before me. He had previous admissions. He had a psychiatrist. He already had a psychiatrist that they called her.
How long were you guys married? How long?
4 years total. I say 3.5 because I separated those last 6 months. So legally.
How long were you married before you found out about the diagnosis?
I want to say at least a year, a little over a year.
Okay, so you put in at least over 2 years of really trying to do the work and trying to get through it.
Mm-hmm. How
was that like? First of all, how did the conversation come up with him? Like,
he was already in the hospital. So he knew by that time when he saw me there, like, she knows now. Because he saw the doctors and nurses talking to me. So he's like, she knows now. And so we didn't even have to have the formal conversation anymore because he knew like, okay, she's here. She knows now. And so I was also in my emotions. I couldn't stop crying. And so I had called my family and told them, and my sister and I have a lot of sisters. My sisters, they came up, and my nieces, they came to the hospital. And I never forget one of my older sisters, she still teases me about it to this day. She was like, you stay here. I'm going to go in. She wanted to go into the room with him. and talk with him. And it was open, so it's like an open lounge. So it was the other patients that was there too, because they all were under a mental hold, but they had like a common recreational room where they can all like socialize. Right. And they can go to their own personal room. So he was like in the social room with the other people that were being held as well. Before they put them in their own individual rooms, because at this point they all didn't had their meds and they're acting calm, so they're not posing a threat right now. And so they're playing different board games. Some of them are sitting down talking to each other, whatever. And so they have it's open room, so they have TVs all around the room so they can watch them. They have the double-sided mirror wall so they can see in and out, you know. Mm-hmm. My sister's like, I want to go in. So I'm a ball of mess. I'm crying. I can't get. I'm not even ready to sit and talk with him yet. Wow. Because I'm so. You know, I'm at a loss for words.
Right. That's a crazy situation. You've known somebody for a certain period of time, and then you find out that they have these diagnoses. It's like, I mean, the signs were there, but they never told you. They married you through sickness and health, I do's, and they didn't tell you this. And it's just like, wow.
That's the person you sit next to every day. Wow. Woke up with that person that morning, and you did not know. A nurse had to tell you during this. And so if he never had that breakdown, it was that chemical imbalance. Yeah. I don't know how long I would have went
without really knowing.
And he could have, and the way he snapped off of the people at the job, it could have been me or somebody else out in the street, and it could have ended a whole nother way than him going peacefully to the hospital. And so my older sister, she went in and she talked with him for about 10, 15 minutes, and she came back out. And I never forget this. She told me this, and she teased me about it to this day. She said, get your shit. I will call the U-Haul. They'll be there in the morning. He was like, he the real deal. He the real deal, sis. This ain't no dress rehearsal. He the real deal. And I'm a ball of mess. Manager, she like 10 years older than me. So I'm like, well, why would you say this to me? You know?
Right. And he probably.
Yes. She like, pull it together. And I'm going to explain something to you. Like, growing up in the hood, she was like, guys in the streets, they go to jail. She said they spent the first 6 months, the first year, convincing the lawyers, the police, even they cellmates that they innocent. They could have got caught red-handed. They still innocent. And she was like, that's just how it goes. I'm innocent no matter what. I don't care what tapes y'all got, what witnesses, I'm innocent. You hear? Right. She was like, I've been in there 10 minutes. He's in there comfortable, laughing, talking, playing games. He in his comfort zone. This the real deal. And I was like, I never thought about it. She said, he's never now once like, why am I here? I don't belong here. Who is these people? Stop talking to me. She said, he's totally not frustrated that he here. He's at peace that he here. He's having a ball. He over there playing checkers, laughing, talking with the other folks in here. They having a ball. This how you know. She said, meanwhile, you out here, you a whole ball of mess. You out here crying away, and he's at peace. This is really him, sis. He'd have been through this before several times. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so she teaches me about it all to this day. Like, can't believe you survived that portion of your life. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, so how long did he stay in there? That stunt of time.
72-hour hold.
Okay.
So I get this. I went up there third day. I'm thinking like, oh, okay, he's getting ready to get released soon. I'm like, do I need to sign paperwork? Let's make plans. You're only going to hold him for, this period of time. They tell me I have to go in the conference room. It's time to have a conversation. So I'm like, well, what's wrong? You evaluated him. He just had a bad day at work. You're going to release him, right? No, ma'am. He's getting transferred to a facility. We've been evaluating him. And since he's been here these 3 days, and based on previous mental health record, he needs to be in a long care treatment facility.
Oh, wow.
It's not safe for him. It's not safe for him to be released and you being responsible. Especially since you didn't have no clue. So you don't know how to treat this, Yes, because he had been off meds for almost, I want to say 2 years. Because I told him I didn't no meds. So he clearly wasn't getting no refills because I never seen no meds. And so all that time of not having meds sent him chemically, he was unbalanced tremendously. And so that's why with the bipolar, he kept having it sent him into what they call manic. He kept having the manic disorders, in which a year at the most, every time the season changed. They say that's when they know that they have them. But because he had a chemical imbalance, he was having them 2 to 3 times a month because he didn't have no medicine in his system for so long. He was fighting, his chemicals was fighting.
So when they moved him to the other hospital, how long did he stay there? When did he officially come home to you?
It was like 2 weeks later. They kept him for 2 whole weeks. They actually transferred him to a full mental hospital. So he stayed for 2 weeks. And then me and his family had to have another meeting with the head of the psych department, and we had to sign off on paperwork.
Wow. So when he got back home, did he come back home to no job or?
No, they held his job. Due to the federal family, they held the job.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me just ask a little bit about your journey after you finding out about his diagnosis. Like, what did he flip out even more now? Was he more comfortable with not fighting it anymore, or what was the journey like?
He was comfortable for about 3 or 4 months. Where he was real appreciative for me staying. And I think to me, now looking back, it was until I let my comfort level drop until he saw I was relaxed. At first, he didn't know if I was gonna leave. And so when he saw, okay, she gonna stay. She's okay. Because then I'm thinking like, okay, let me just help you. This is my first time being with somebody with mental health. I'll just help. And so I want to say about 3 or 4 months in, that's when little trinkets of domestic violence started.
Okay.
And then the domestic violence escalated, and it went times 100. That was my final reason for actually leaving and filing for my divorce, because the domestic violence would not stop. The police was getting called every week. Wow. And it wasn't me. It wasn't me calling. It was my neighbors. That's the crazy part about it. It was my neighbors calling. It just wouldn't stop. His family began to know about it. He came from a very upscale Black educated family. Very, very, very upscale. They found out about it. They was just like, I can't say they were getting on him. They never not once talked down to me. They were very much on board with telling him he need to get himself together. Right. Like, she's a young girl. She likes you. She's being nice. Like, you're really like showing out. And so I hid it from my family. I didn't tell my family about the abuse. My friends, nobody. I hid it until I couldn't. Just until I got to the end, and so I couldn't take it anymore, and I was ready to bail out. That's when finally people started. That's when my family, my mom, my grandmother, I exposed that I was, but the whole time they knew, they could sense that something was wrong, but I knew that I wasn't the type. I'm not a crybaby. Right. They're like, she's not a crybaby. She's not gonna let on that something's wrong, but we could tell something's wrong because she's not herself. Like, she's normally a happy, laughing, a ball of fun, and now she's like super serious, real short, quick, real quick conversations, get off the phone with you. She's not herself.
Something going
on, yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you this. So when I asked you what was the hardest lesson you learned within love and relationships, you put for your answer, relationships and / marriage are a reflection of you as a person, what you are lacking and looking for in another person. Could you go in depth with that answer? And how you feel that applies to women today who tend to make the wrong decisions in relationships.
Yes. For me, I would say a lot of times relationships are a reflection of what we want and what we're lacking in ourselves. Because at that time, as you said earlier, when I first told you I met him in college, when I was on the chat rooms, and I said he started serenading me with the gifts and the love. It's like everything is moving so quickly, but you ignore it because you want a relationship. And so I wanted a serious relationship. I had just gotten out of one that was serious. And so I wanted another serious relationship. And so I ignored the red flags. It's what I wanted in myself. I wanted to feel that extra love. I lost my father at an early age. He passed away. And so I grew up with just my mother and my grandmother. They were two very strong Southern dominating women. And so I believe that lack of love that I had from a father, because I lost my father at an early age, that type of love I was looking for, and that radar went out when I was dating. And so he was one of my very first, like, serious as an adult. I had serious as a teenager, but serious as an adult out on my own. That's the reason what I picked up, because what we send out is what we get back. Because
right.
I wasn't in that mind frame, then I would have recognized those gifts real quick. But because I was in that mind frame, I told you he was like 12 years older than me. It was like a father rewarding buying a child. You know, like if your parents are separated and every time your daddy comes see you, he brings you a gift.
Right.
You start to expect these gifts, you know, and that's what you think, that every time I see my daddy, I'm gonna get a gift. And so you started looking to them for that. And that's what he had started building in me, where I look to him for everything. And so, because when I actually left him, he said, I made you. I bought you everything that you got. How you gonna leave me?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's like, you have all these clothes, these shoes, these bags. I want my peace. I don't care about none of this stuff. But that's what I'm saying. I realize now, being 40, looking back at me when I was in my 20s, I was putting off that energy that I wanted a daddy figure, because I lost my dad when I was young. And my dad was like my everything to me. He was the one, because him and my mother didn't live together, that when he would come on weekends, he would take me to lunch and he would buy me things. And so my little eyes would just light up. My daddy's coming today. And so not having that growing up, when I started dating, what did I look for? A daddy.
That's what you look for. Yeah.
He did it. He started showering me. I was like, oh yes, I didn't hit the jackpot. Not knowing that comes with a penalty.
Gotcha. So what do you look for now?
I'm married now again. I've been married 14 years in January.
Wow.
This time it was totally different. I had my radar super up. And what I looked for this time was, I wasn't into the gifts. I wasn't into the fancy restaurants, the trips. I was more into, tell me your story. Who are you? And so my current husband and I, we talked and chatted for about a good 2 or 3 weeks before we actually went out on an actual date and started dating. We would just chat, just call each other when we got off work, when we got off school, when we got done with school, because my husband he was working and going to school at the same time back then. And so when he would get done with class and work, when I would get done with work, we would talk at the end of the night for a couple of hours, but we didn't make a date plans real quick. We waited like almost 3 weeks before we went on like our official first date. That's because cool. We want to get to know each other. And we would just have conversations like, well, who are you? How did you get to this point in your life? It wasn't so much about, okay, I want to go to the Jimmy Choo store, or I want to go to the Cheesecake Factory, or, you know what I'm saying? I want to be seen going on these fancy dates.
Yeah.
And we don't even know who we each other are. We're just sitting across from each other at this nice fancy restaurant, and we're giving each other these interview answers, and it's like, no, we actually time to actually sit back and talk. And so I was more into who are you, which means the good, the
The
bad.
bad, the ugly.
My husband and I, we discussed the good and the bad before we went on the first date. So when we went on that first date, we already knew, okay, this person, this is her issues she dealing with. This is my issues I'm dealing with, or whatever. And so we went from there, and that's how we gelled. And we didn't rush to put labels on it. That's another thing I think a lot of people do. They rush to put labels.
Yeah, that is a bad sign to do.
To say we're officially together, we're officially a couple, and we didn't do that. We were going on maybe about 3-4 months before we started telling family and friends that we was together. We met each other's family and friends, but we would just say, hey, this is my friend. And we was like, my friend. You know what I'm saying? But we were like, yeah, it's just my friend. It ain't nothing extra. It's just my friend. And I think that a lot of my friends now, they say, do I think that that's what made him different from everybody else while we lasted, we're 14 years in? And yes, I think that made a difference because we were just friends. And because see, when you just friends, you would tell that person more than you would tell them if you trying to be their girlfriend or boyfriend.
Right.
If you just be like, hey, I like to wake up in the morning and eat chicken at 3:00 in the morning for no reason. But if you trying to impress somebody, you're not going to tell them that because I want them to think that I got an eating disorder. I wake up at 3:00 in the morning and eat chicken for no reason. Stuff like that. So that's why I say, but when you're friends with somebody, you'll say, girl, I had a weird craving last night. This is what I did.
Right.
So that's what I think that a lot of people don't do is they don't know how to be friends. Even though you may be romantically attracted to the person, take it slow as if it's just going to be just a friend, just a homie.
So you believe in just having fun and just being friends.
Mm-hmm. And don't say nothing. Even if they tell you like, even if they're dating somebody else and you're dating somebody else, keep your options open. A lot of my girlfriends are surprised when I tell them that. Keep your options open. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Date. Because if you don't have a ring on your hand, you're single. There's no papers been filed to the state. You're single.
Right.
So just date, and dating doesn't mean sex. You don't have to have sex with them either. Because you're just dating. That's another thing I tell people is the sex part. Don't put the sex in it early because it complicates things. Because now you're involved. Just have fun. Go out and hang out, talk, laugh, enjoy, and work your way up to that big portion. But a lot of times we have sex first, then we go out. Then we got kids together. Now we don't like each other.
Right.
Everything all backwards. And then we like, well, why it didn't work? Because you did everything wrong first. It's like, get to know that person. Find out what makes that person tick, what they like, what they don't like. And then you will know, okay, well, so if I'm dealing with you and you have these issues. So now my husband and I, we're big jokesters. And so when we're around other couples or even, single people, they be like, you all always cracking jokes on each other. And we be like, yeah, because we like, because we're friends, because we originally started off as friends. My husband's from he grew up in the projects and I didn't. And so I always tease him about that. Not saying nothing about the project. I grew up, but what's crazy is I grew up like 3 blocks from the projects. It just wasn't the project. It was just right like 3 blocks away. So, I'd be like
across the tracks.
So I get in my bougie mode. So I'd be like, so he'd say something crazy. I'd be like, I thought somebody that grew up in the project said something. How you gonna talk? You know the project? How I thought you said something. Somebody from the project. He's you was right down the street. You might as well have been my neighbor. You was right down the street. People be like, well, damn, how can y'all? Because we friends, so it ain't no love lost to throw shots.
And the joke and to be like you said. So your main message is to really just take it slow and build something first versus just being in a rush. Like you said during your interview, I think people be so quick to jump into relationship mode because when you get on a date now, people think automatically, well, I'm aiming to find a boyfriend or I'm aiming to find a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And when you rush, I think that it applies to almost everything. When you rush, it normally does not come out right. Mm-hmm. So Okay, that is awesome. I guess that's what you would say. That was your biggest lesson from your first marriage.
I rushed, and I was so caught up in the whole whirlwind of dating, the dinners, the getaways, the gifts, the purses, the clothes. I was so caught up in the whole being in this relationship that I didn't even know who I was dealing with. I knew nothing about him because we didn't get a chance to have those real conversations because he was always impressing me, and I was just fascinated with all the impressing, but I never thought to us to have those real deep conversations. But now that's what I tell all my girlfriends, and that's the reason why I'm working on my book, is so that people can know that's what happens to them. People's like, my girlfriend said, "You're gonna put it all out there?" I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put it all out there because I have to save somebody. And I've lost 2 nieces, a nephew, and a best friend to domestic violence.
Wow.
And so I feel like I don't want nobody else's blood on my hands.
There you go.
I don't speak up.
There you
And
go.
I have to speak up because it's some young ladies, some even older women, that you're going to stay too long. I left soon, but some women don't leave. They think
they don't. They feel like they can either change the person or they feel like their love is enough. I went through a really abusive relationship as a teenager with a guy who later on down the line, well, no, as a kid, he was diagnosed with some bipolar issues that I didn't know about, but we were teenagers. And he would do the craziest things to me. Luckily, in my situation, my parents ended up moving. I'm from Florida originally. I'm here in Georgia. But I went through my own abusive relationship with somebody who was clinically unstable. So I relate, and I believe in my situation. My situation is opposite from yours. So my dad is, I didn't have a good relationship with my father. And I tend to look for that strongly in guys that I dated. I want that closeness. I want to have that good relationship with a guy. And it made me stick around in that relationship as a teenager. And I built this trauma bond with this guy because I wanted closeness from a male. And it traveled into other relationships as an adult. Like, I'm finally trying to get it together, but that's another story for another day. Let me ask you this, Lady B, where can the audience find you, my dear?
You can find me on Instagram, unapologetically living without the G _ unapologetically living without the G _. And when you go to my page on Instagram, it's open. You click the link is in the bio, and that takes you straight to my YouTube. I'm on YouTube as well. It's unapologetically living without the G as well. And that's the link for my actual podcast. So you get both.
Awesome. Okay, and all of those links will be in the show notes, so you guys check Lady B out. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you, love. I've enjoyed chatting with you. We got a lot.
Yes, we do. And I want to thank all of the listeners for tuning in. You can find me at P4K Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. If you liked this podcast, please download and subscribe. If there's anything you would like to talk about in regards to relationships, or would like to be a guest on the show to speak on relationships or get advice, you can always connect via social media at Playing for Keeps, or email DJ at info@p4kdating.com. Thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.